Hi everyone, I'm Connor Jameson. This is Collide Course World History. We don't know what this is supposed to be, but copyright and stuff. Anyways, today we're going to talk about World War I. Yes, the war equivalent of the older brother that gets no more attention after his younger brother was born and is so much cooler than him. World War I, originally known as the Great War, was one of the bloodiest in U.S. history. Lasting from 1914 to 1918, there was an estimate of 11 million soldiers who perished during that time. That's pretty crazy considering if you ask anyone why the World War I started, they'll say, because, the Germans and stuff. No, I'm not going to get into detail why it started, but I'll give you reasons why it was so bloody. One, unlike all the past wars where we were fighting more than one country. Two, there was chemical warfare involved, and trench warfare, which was super bloody. And three, machine guns. Unlike ever before, a soldier could fire into a group of crowds, killing more people than ever without ever having to load his clip. Now, as you can imagine, that had a lot of bloodshed, which added a focus onto medicine. Yeah, that stuff that for some reason always tastes like purple grapes and tastes really bad. Personally, I just take the Mary Poppins method of it and take it down with a spoonful of, So with advancements in warfare like machine guns and stuff like that, also came an advancement with medicine. You see, before we entered the war in 1917, we didn't have an established medical corps, so what we did was we copied the French. The system was broken down like this. You see, the stretcher bearers would come out first. They went to the aid of the wounded, who took them to the trenches. Once back at the trenches, an ambulance would come over and take them to the tents where they would be treated. And the stuff that these doctors did constantly saved lives. Although they used anesthesia, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbow for the soldiers. You see, we were still being treated in a dirty tent in the middle of a frickin' war zone. Anyways, the main system of anesthesia was given through a vapor in the mask, and was usually either chloroform or ether, sometimes a mixture of the both. I told you that mixing drinks would someday save lives. Mom. Okay, you see, you couldn't use Tylenol because, well, it wasn't invented yet. See, Tylenol was invented in 1982, so the only anesthesia that they were given was the vapor through the mask. So, if you were done with surgery and you were just lying around, you were just lying in your pain, and you had nothing to chew on to keep your pain down. Now, so far I've talked a lot about fighting in the war, so let's move on to the silent killer. No, not far, influenza. So buckle your seatbelt, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, because you're about to hear the best video about influenza to ever grace your damn ears. So influenza killed somewhere from 20 million to 30 million people in the span of 1 year. If you were infected with influenza, a lot of the time you would die unless you were, wait for it, the Mongols. So around the end of the war, influenza erupted in the trenches. At first, it seemed like a common cold, but sadly, that was far from it. At the beginning, it didn't really hurt you that much, but within time, it adapted, and it was deadly. At one point, nearly a fifth of the population was infected. Luckily, in the early stages of the flu, you would most of the time have it for a few days, and then you'd get over it. But as time progressed, the flu killed more and more people. Of all the soldiers in Europe, half of them died from influenza instead of actually fighting. That's crazy. The worst part of it was they didn't even have a cure from it. So people just kind of got it and hoped they weren't gonna die. Luckily, by 1919, it faded out because the people who had it were either dead or they developed an immunity to it. Oh, really? It's time for the open letter? Okay. An open letter to influenza. But first, we gotta find out what's in the mystery compartment. Oh, pain reliever. I could have used that back in the day. An open letter to influenza. Hey, influenza, why you gotta be such a jerk? I mean, seriously, there was 1 year left of the war. 1 year! And you had to come around and kill just as many soldiers that had already been killed in combat? What a jerk, man. And the name, influenza. What's up with that name? If you killed more people than almost any disease before you. You can't use a weak name like influenza. Why not the flu to end all flus, or the fluinator or something? Best wishes, Connor Jameson. So, to finish off this episode, we're going to talk about plastic surgery. No, not those awful looking celebrities who look like they got stung in the face with a bee and they had a bad infection. No, we're talking about really good plastic surgery. You see, back in the good old 20th century, a person's face was their whole identity. So a lot of the soldiers who came back from war with their faces torn off couldn't adjust back to society. Their whole idea of identity was corrupted. To quote Fred Albee, an American surgeon working in France, "The psychological effect on a man who must go through life an object of horror to himself as well as to others is beyond description. It is a fairly common experience for the maladjusted person to feel like a stranger in his own world." So some doctors felt like they should make a difference, and that doctor is Annie Coleman Ladd, who wasn't even a doctor, by the way. She was a sculptor. You see, she would take a mold of the good half of your face, then create an exact replica, except flipped, for the destroyed half of your face. She would then paint the skin while holding it up to you to match your skin tone, and then she'd send you on your way. Although looks can seem like a trivial thing, this really changed lives. One soldier even wrote to Ladd saying that he was thankful that his wife no longer found him repulsive. Now I feel that that's making a difference, so I'll leave you with this question. With all the war and pain in this world, what can you do to make a difference? Best wishes, Connor Jameson. Clyde Course is filmed in Loyola High School. It's written by me, Connor Jameson. And as they say on a podcast I once heard, grab that chick. Best wishes, Connor Jameson.